What's going on, guys? So today's video I want to talk about, something I talked about in the past video, and I'm gonna make it as short as possible. But yeah, I want to touch base on a video I made about PlayStation leaving the hardware business eventually, or sooner rather than later. And this came from an interview that was taken out of context, and like I said in previous video, they was taking bits and pieces and making full-fledged videos about it. And I think it's insanity. How can you take bits and pieces out of a full interview and twist it how you want it to be? It's just getting ridiculous. But yeah, so with that being said, like I said, there's been a lot of things that's happened after that interview went out, and people started taking it as Sony is leaving the hardware business, or PlayStation is going out of the hardware business, and that could be furthest from the truth. Like I stated before, they had over 70 million consoles sold, and it wouldn't make no sense to do what Microsoft is doing. So, they can put that to bed. But yeah, so we have a few days ago, Digital Foundry made a video where they was discussing things concerning like PlayStation 6 leaks, and they actually touched base on this exact topic. So yeah, I want to play that video, just a short amount of it so you can see for yourself. And you can see that they're in agreement with what I was saying as far as PlayStation leaving the hardware business, and also how people have been taking things out of context. And if you hear any noise in the background, I'm sorry, it's kind of busy, but yeah, so I'm gonna play this video and let y'all see what they have to say about it, and then go from there.
Final news story of the week, and I guess we just wanted to pick up on some things that have been happening in terms of the world of platform holders turning into multi-platform developers, etc., or maybe not. Last week we were going to talk about this, but we ran out of time. There was a job posting from Sony for a senior director of multi-platform and account management, and buried within the text they're talking about things like, hey, we're going to be supporting Steam, Epic Game Stores, Xbox, Nintendo, mobile, what's going on? And then I just sort of was reading this morning this headline on WCCF Tech. Sony executive confirms that PlayStation is moving away from the hardware business towards a platform business, which is totally at odds with the kind of messaging we've seen so far from PlayStation, which is enough to raise an eyebrow, Roger Moore style. Oliver, you've been looking into these comments. I think there is obviously change afoot, because this is, ultimately the gaming business is a dynamic, volatile market, right? But at the same time, I think, things are going to change, but not dramatically so, as some of these headlines might be sort of suggesting.
Yeah. I think that these statements are kind of not really that meaningful without context here. And I
Yeah.
think when you look at this Sony job ad in particular, they could be talking about a lot of things. Sony already has games on Xbox, kind of famously. You obviously have Helldivers 2 coming out in just a couple of weeks here. You also have MLB The Show. They have titles on Nintendo platforms already. They have Lego Horizon Adventures on Nintendo platforms on the original Switch. So I think these comments in that job ad are really easily mappable onto their existing console strategy. I don't think it suggests anything in particular that's new. In terms of that kind of second story, in terms of the story about the SVP at Sony, his comments, I think it's really important to actually read what he's saying, because he's an SVP for Sony, not Sony Interactive. The question that he was being asked was not about their games business. It was about Bandai Namco and Sony's anime offerings, including like Demon Slayer and other properties. And the specific phrasing of what he's saying is really about Sony's hardware business, i.e. their TV divisions, their cameras, versus their content business, which is what, in his terms, their community-based engagement businesses. The quote, across a 200-word odd response, he only mentions gaming once, right? So he's not really talking about gaming. He's talking about that contrast between their hardware-centric businesses to their more community-based engagement businesses, which involve the gaming platform in particular here. So I don't think that's necessarily about any shift in their hardware strategy, any shift in their software strategy necessarily.
So yeah, that was a little snippet from Digital Foundry. Richard Lee Better, Oliver McKenzie, and I don't want to butcher his name, but Alex Battaglia. So that's basically what was said was exactly what I believe, and you have a few people that's been saying the same thing. It's a lot of things been taken out of context for their own personal agenda. So, I mean, there you have it. Sometimes, you gotta let things die down and see where the chips fall, and then a lot of times the truth reveals itself. And even still with PlayStation hardware, that's not something we can say will happen right now. We don't know when it will happen, but for the foreseeable future, no, I don't see that happening in the next 2 to 3 years, maybe even 4 to 5. So yeah, I mean, I know Digital Foundry, some people have mixed feelings about them, but then at times people come to them for expert advice or an expert opinion or just to see what they think about certain things. So with me, I try to be fair, so you can't deny that they have, some expertise, if not more than the average person. So they can be a credible source, and they're independent now, so let's see if they can really lean more on that and not be biased and have a free will to say how they really feel about things. And I'm not saying it wasn't happening before, but yeah, so that's just a little something I want to share, just to touch base on what I said previously. I still believe PlayStation is not moving from the hardware business. Do not believe a lot of these content creators or whoever, journalists or whoever, saying this is not happening. They don't have a reason to right now. So yeah, that about do it for this video. You can go over to their YouTube channel and watch the video in its entirety, and you could take from it what you want. But like I said before, they're not moving away from hardware no time soon. So don't believe the lies. Until the next time, I'm out. Please like and subscribe. Peace.